It's my honor to present to you our next speaker, Michał Prorok. At present, Michał is a delivery manager at Xebia. However, he had an opportunity to see many places and companies. He worked with portfolio project, account, line manager and resource manager, business analyst, product owner with total 8 years of management experience, primarily in the world of IT. He's associated with PMI for 5 years now. He's holding the role of Vice President of Events in Poland chapter. And he's the creator of Management 360 conference and PMI Thlon competition event. By the way, MMORPG stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. MMORPG called Project Michał Prorok.
Right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello there, guys. Let me start by saying how honored I am to be standing here to talk to you, but especially standing here in the cinema, in the New Horizons cinema, because I worked here for 2 years, a while back. So it's an extreme honor to be standing in this room that I've cleaned so many times before. Right, so a short slide about myself. As you've heard, I'm a delivery manager with 8 years of experience in projects. I am VP of events at PMI Poland chapter with 5 years of volunteering experience, but I'm also a gamer with approximately 22 years of experience, and I think this is the most important part for this presentation. Right, before we start proper, a small disclaimer. Most of the graphics you'll be seeing in this presentation has been generated by myself with Midjourney. I am quite excited to show you them. I hope you are a bit as excited as I am to see them. Right, I was supposed to start with explanation, what is an MMORPG, because I thought at least some of you seeing this cluster of words will be asking, what is it exactly? But it has been explained before. So maybe let's just jump in. So, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Role-playing game is a type of game where the player assumes the role of a particular character or a group of characters and is influencing their actions. Massively multiplayer online role-playing game differs from that by the amount of players that are playing, obviously. So we have massively multiplayer online games, we have multiplayer online role-playing games, and then we have RPGs. The massively multiplayer online games gather millions of players. Right, so this is the first graphic with more explanation what is MMORPG, but we've covered that. Moving on to the 3 of the most popular MMORPGs. So we have Guild Wars, World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I've selected 3 of those because I played them all. So I will be basing my comparisons on those games and on another one thing that is a cousin of those. Basically, every role-playing game, including MMORPGs, are more technically advanced cousins of Dungeons and Dragons. This is the basis of every role-playing game. I suppose you've heard of it. It's gaining more and more popularity back because of games that are based on D&D, that are saying that are based on D&D. There was a movie on D&D, and there are streams of people playing D&D online again. So D&D is gaining popularity more and more now. So, what do we have in those games, and what do we have in Dungeons and Dragons? So, in Dungeons and Dragons, your imagination is the game engine, as you probably know. So, you are assuming a role of a particular character that you've created yourself within the game boundaries, obviously. And every character has its character sheet. So we have a table that is both a template and a tool to create your character, to assume its role within the game boundaries, as we specified. And you fill it with the information that are world building, to let everyone know who you are as this character, and technical information about this character. Their statistics like health points, strength, dexterity, wisdom, and their proficiencies. What the character can and cannot do. For example, one character will be better at lockpicking than any other. Going into classes, a rogue would be better to pickpocket someone than a barbarian with an axe, right? And then we also have some kind of character sheet in real life. It's called resume or CV. So this is our character sheet in our project called Work, Job, Life. You populate your resume with word-building information about yourself, as well as your skills and proficiencies. They're a bit different than pickpocketing and lockpicking, hopefully. But you still have your proficiencies, your skills. And yeah, and as you can see, those are not real words. Midjourney is not good with creating content, written content. So this is the first thing that we have in common with the games, right? We do work on character sheets in our projects. Right, and we grow this character that we have on our character sheet, on our resume, every single day within the boundaries of the game, of our corporate job life. Okay, so if there are some similarities, let's have a look at what makes a good MMORPG a good MMORPG. So, the game should have persistent game environment. It shouldn't change completely every time you log in, right? If you are selecting the game and you enjoy playing it, you would like to play the same game the next day, not completely different one. The game should have some form of level progression. So you do things, you earn money, experience points, skills, after completing some quests, presumably. You would have social interactions within the game. That's the massively multiplayer part. You would have in-game culture. There are two types of in-game culture. There is developers build in-game culture, which is the basis for the player culture to be built upon, because the players are the one building the culture itself and interacting with it more than the developers of the game. We have system architecture, which is obviously the software architecture of the game, if we are talking about video games, but also this is a system architecture for the system within the game. For example, talent trees or selecting your proficiencies. You would have membership in a group, and this could be a questing party, a guild, and it's the community of the players as a whole. And you have character customization. We want to have a character that is different from everyone else's. So how does it translate to project? When you look at this list, you may be thinking, well, there's no translation. But going one by one, and briefly do that, you'll see there is a translation, and it's fairly simple. Persistent game environment translates to new day, the same project. You don't change the project every single day. If you do, I guess it's hard, and you can be as lucky as unlucky with that as you can be. Some form of level progression, you get seniority levels, you get promotions, and you get certificates. Social interaction within the game translates to social interactions at work. Simple as that. In-game culture, company and team culture. And again, we have two levels of this culture. Company culture that is set up and created for us, and then team culture that we build upon this company culture. System architecture, it's ways of working, our procedures, and they also can be company-wide, and they can be team-specific. Membership in a group, obviously translated to membership in a team, in the organization. And we customize ourselves with clothes, haircut, and we want to distinguish ourselves from every other person in the team. So is our project a game? I think so. I will show you more examples. But looking at that, I think every single project can be called a game, if we want it to be. So we could create a logo of the game for every our project, like mobile app Revenge of QA. Right, so this is just a visualization, and if we think that our projects are video games or video games are our projects, we can look at the cycles that we do things in games. So we create a party, we embark on an adventure, we complete some quests, level up, defeat the boss, and again, create a party. Let's start with creating the party then. In the fantasy setting, there's a group of people driven by fate to meet in one tavern due to curious circumstances. In MMORPG, there is a group of players who all need to defeat this particular dragon, for example, because everyone has a tragic backstory related to this dragon. Those players fulfill different roles in the party. Some of them are defending others, some of them are dealing damage, and some of them are healing everyone else. And we do have parties, teams, in our corporate world. But forming the party looks a bit different. In the fantasy setting, there's this fate, or just a group of players that decides to play and make their character play together. But in the corporate world, there's more likely one person frustrated in front of Excel file trying to match the people to open position. So this is the fate that we have that brought us together in the project. There's just a decision, right? This resource manager, or a person that performs role of a resource manager, tries to play 3D chess with the Excel file and assign people to particular roles, just as in the fantasy setting. There are people, management position, QAs, developers, analysts, etc., etc. And then we embark on our adventure. Again, in fantasy setting, it looks quite nice. So you set out, look at the view. You set out in this open world, full of possibilities, full of quests, where you are supposed to beat the big bad. You gather your resources, your gear, your party members, you're setting the objectives, and you go out to explore the world. And again, we have some form of starting our adventure in the corporate world, but it looks like this, right? There's no great view of a castle in the skyline. There's just a Zoom call. We have the kickoff meeting, but we still gather our team. We get to know each other, we gather our resources and tools and party members. We're setting goals and expectations. But there is something less exciting in it than going into an MMORPG adventure. But still, the process looks the same. Right after we set out, we have our quests. So this is a representation of how a fantasy game quest log could look like. Again, this is Midjourney, so those are not the words. But this is a visual representation how the quest looks like. You have your quests, you have your side quests, you complete them, you gain some experience, some rewards. Those quests are both world building, so you get to know the world a bit more. You get to complete side quests, but most of them, especially the main quests, are moving the world forward. So you are getting further in your plot to defeat this dragon as we set out. And we do have our quest log in the project, but it, again, looks completely different. And please tell me, do you prefer this one, fantasy looking, or this one? Because unfortunately, this is the most quest logs in our projects, as I found out. And also, it's a list of our quests, main quests, side quests. We are setting boundaries and expectations. We learn during those quests. But again, a bit less exciting than just playing the game. We have small tasks, entire user stories, and epics to go through. We have, as I said, our side quests, our main quests, but all of them are within a certain roadmap, hopefully, to achieve a certain goal, possibly for a client, right? But when we finish those quests, we gain experience, both in fantasy world, both in our projects. So let's talk about character progression for a minute. We have our wizard. He defeated some enemies, he completed some quests, so he levels up. He gains enough experience to get new spells, new gear, and he changes. He's not only limited to fire spells, as you can see. But the same thing happens, albeit slower than upgrading your wizard from level 2 to level 3. You also, in your complete world, can level up. You have your junior developer, and again, this is mid-journey, which is kind of crazy, right? He does some tasks, he learns, completes some courses, gets some certifications, and he levels up. He took the page from the wizard's playbook, he leveled up, he evolves, and he gets to senior developer level. And again, the prompt was generate senior Java developer. So apologies if you're a Java developer. You look tired, I guess. But again, there are different ways to progress, to evolve. As your mage can be a fire mage and then go into ice, lightning, or summoning creatures, right? You, in your job, can also evolve in different ways, like Pokemon, branched evolution. You can become senior developer, business analyst from a junior developer perspective. You can go into architecture, you can become DevOps. But you have to be careful, because you can become a senior developer, or you can become senior developer if you're not careful, which is also fun. After we complete some quests, we get to the boss fight. In the fantasy setting, it looks something like this. We have a group of people. It's often a very large group of people. In the games I play, for example, to defeat one boss, you have to have 25 people working in unison. Right? So we have a group of people working with very big, bad, scary dragon, who basically can defeat any single one of you, of the players, with one attack, so we have to coordinate. As you can, I hope you can see the pattern now, that I'm first talking about the games and then about our jobs. So thinking about boss fight, I'm sure at least some part of you thought of this. But our boss fight in our job is not physically fighting our boss, I hope. But it could be basically anything we think is big, scary, looming in the dark. We know we'll have to get there and we have to face it, but we are not sure if we are prepared. So we can make our boss ourselves, right? We can deploy on Fridays and then try to fix it during the weekend. But this deployment can be our boss fight. Go live can be our boss fight. This is the part we are not particularly prepared for when starting the journey. Okay, so when we defeat our boss, what's next? We defeat our boss and then we start over, both in projects and both in our games. So let's have a quick look again at our cycle. Create a party, embark on an adventure, complete some quests, level up, defeat the boss, and then we start over. I think we can compare it to software development life cycles, both for sprints and the projects as a whole. And we can even draw comparison between this cycle and agile cycles. So if we are comparing projects with games, are you as a manager a game master or a player? Game master typically prepares the game. They set up the world for the players, make sure that they are both challenged and entertained. They are the ones basically creating everything apart from player characters. As managers, we are at least in some points very similar to game masters, as we do set up environment that our teams are working in. We try to make work as challenging and entertaining as we can, obviously within the boundaries of the game system, let's say. For example, project. We mostly work for clients, for external clients, who come in and say, I want this and this and this, and as a manager, you really can't change that much in terms of clients' requirements. But we do set up the environment and the ways of working for our teams. But also, as managers, we kind of are players. We are members of our teams, hopefully, again. We are not outside of this process. We are working with our team, with our developers, to achieve the goals together. So we also are players, and this is a curious position to be creating the environment and then interacting with it. It's almost like if video game developer played their own game, and this is rare, as far as I am told. Okay, so my conclusion to this question would be, as most managers would say, it depends. It depends on the particular project, on the setup, and it depends on what do you as a manager want to do. Do you want to play with the team and make sure that we are all working together? Or do you want to be this omniscient entity outside of the team, just moving things around? Those are different management perspectives. But should we add a layer of abstract thinking to our projects in general? I believe so. Even thinking about our resumes as character sheets is quite entertaining, and I'm sure I will be making my next resume looking like a D&D character sheet. But I think it's also entertaining, and it can prolong our team's interest in the project if we add a level of gamification to it. I believe it could increase productivity, motivation, and improve collaboration if we have side quests within our projects, for example. And I will show you 3 ideas how you can gamify your project. I used all of those, so I guess I can speak from experience in that. Do you know this game, Dixit? Beautiful cards, very abstract. A few of those. I use them in retrospective sessions. I use them to start the retrospective session. I lay them down on the table. It's easier offline than online, but you can do it as well. There are applications online for that. And you ask your team to select 3 cards. For example, let's talk about sprint retrospective. So you ask them to select 1 card that shows start of the sprint, during the sprint, and what do we want after the sprint, in the next sprints. So, for example, let's talk about your left-down corner. A developer can say that at the start of the sprint, he was like this lonely baby in the woods. He knew nothing, he was scared. But now, let's go 3 cards to the right. He's this cat, hunting for one last bag in the backlog, right? So it opens creativity. It doesn't really bring that much content to analyze after the retro, but it opens creativity and makes people be more open in their comments when you get to the meat of the retrospective, to those questions that we all ask, because we have to. Okay, next one. This is a badge with an owl, and it has a story behind it. I was working with one team on a project for a client that had a logo of an animal, different animal than this owl, on a white card, let's say. And after every sprint, the team voted for an MVP in the project, someone who did something great, helped out, who went above and beyond. And this person on the retrospective was announced, and this person used this logo with an owl, let's say, as their profile picture on Slack for the next sprint. And it was fun for the team because they tried to help out and gain votes to use this logo as a profile picture. And then during next sprint, everyone said, "Oh, MVP just joined the meeting," and they made fun of each other. So it helped us to collaborate, to get to know each other, to get to know our humor better. And the last thing is leaders board. This is more, it's harder to implement, let's say. You have to come up with a system, a scoring system, for example, for completing a task within estimated time and estimated story points. For example, for closing all the MRs, for fixing bugs, for dealing with tech debt. You can assign points value to every task they have. And then you score it on the leaders board. And rewards depend on your project, on your company, on what you can do. Your company may have some swag, some Bluetooth speakers, for example, to give out to the best person. You can treat them as a loyalty program, let's say. So for example, if you gain this year enough points, you can buy something from the list that you've created. It depends on the budget, on the possibilities of your company, but even small things like the person who gets the most points gets to select the next sticker we order as a team to put on our laptops. It can be anything, and we can create a layer of fun for our team. To sum all we said before up, what actually playing video games can give us in terms of our projects? It can teach us strategic thinking. Playing video games, you have to come up with strategy to the situation that you're in. You have to think what to do to get the best outcome. You have to work as a team, both in MMORPGs or RPGs like Baldur's Gate, extremely popular in last few months or years if you're tracing the beta time. You play on your own or with your friend, but you have a team of characters. So you have to think about looking for synergy. For example, if you cast water spell and then you cast lightning spell, they will interact and deal more damage. So you're looking for the synergy, and you're teaching yourself to look for it in corporate setting as well. For example, this person is good at one thing, and he or she can help out another person and get something in return. You have to be quick in reacting to changing environment. And the environment that we are living in, working in, is changing rapidly. That cannot be denied. So the video game environment, the setting that you are in, can change very rapidly. For example, you are in a fight, you think you're winning, and then someone opens the door, and new enemies are coming in. And you have to adapt, you have to react, you have to change your strategy, going back to strategic thinking. It helps to empower critical thinking. You have to think of consequences. And you have to accept them until you reload the game. If the outcome is not what you thought of, you can always reload the game. But not in real life. That would be the difficult part. So, the key takeaway, I guess, is to experiment, but within reason. There's no game saving in real life. There's no way to go back. And if you implement those things, I think your team could look like this, a mixture of IT and fantasy. And I think I've covered everything faster than I should have. So we'll have more time for questions, I suppose. So this is a thank you slide, obviously, with my photo from the beginning, changed by Midjourney as well. But thank you.
Thank you, Michał. Thank you, Michał, for your inspiring speech. It reminded me a bit about Neil Strauss' book, The Game. He just did this metaphor with dating girls to reduce stress of men. Just that it's like a game. And I think that it will definitely make our professionals' life more interesting.
I hope so.
As we like playing games, don't we? At least some of us do. Are there any questions? Please raise your hand and somebody will come with a microphone. Is there any question? Oh, there is a question in the last row. Could you please raise your hand once more, please? And there will be a question in the row number 3 here in a minute.
Hello?
Hello.
Do you think that the games with Iron Man mode, it's like the type of game when you cannot save and load, when you exit the game it saves automatically, are better teaching the life than other types of game?
I don't think they are better at teaching that, but they are teaching something else. Those games started when there was no memory to have a save, right? Some game implemented codes. After completing every level, you could write it down and then go back. But the games like that teach you consistency, teach you to overcome, at least I think so, teach you to overcome some obstacles and repetitions. So if you enjoy playing those games, it's possible you will enjoy doing the same thing over and over at your work. There are some tiresome tasks that we have to do every single day, for example, reporting our time in our tracking systems. And this is cumbersome. And if you enjoy playing games like that, I think you don't have problems with reporting your time every day, right?
Well,
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And the second question, please.
Hi, thank you for this marvelous speech.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question related to this. I don't know if this is scalability of the solution, but let me explain. Most of the parties, members of the parties, are at level 1, maybe 3, because this is the probability. The most players are less experienced.
Yep.
And for them, fighting a dragon, this is a marvelous experience. And the next dragon and the 5th dragon. So that lays the foundation. And then you have a party with characters at level 20 or 30 that they slaughtered like 5 million dragons.
Yep.
And how to keep them entertained.
You switch the dragon for a beholder, a devil, or something else.
Yeah.
But to answer more project-like, you have to think of other variants of gamification, right? So, for example, this leaderboard will be exciting for those party members that are lower level. As you said, more experienced players or teammates who slayed hundreds of dragons. So they deployed everything to every possible solution, and they know everything that they are doing. You have to come up with different kind of competition, I would say. Something that attracts them as a senior members. I don't have, an iron solution for that. It depends on every team. You have to, as a manager, you would have to get to know them, have to get to know what interests them. For example, I lead a DevOps team at the moment. The entire team are just DevOps engineers, and it was entirely new for me. I used to work with Java developers, with Android, iOS developers. And then I joined the team with DevOps engineers, and I came back to the times that they were speaking technical languages, and I understood nothing. After 8 years of experience in projects, I went back to understanding nothing they say. Something about Terraform in Squid and Bastion, and I know what Squid is. I know the Bastion is a faction in World of Warcraft, and that's it. But I had to get to know them, And giving them Dixit cards wouldn't work. What worked for them is having pizza and beer party after every deployment, simply. Because I get to know them, I ask them, what are you enjoying? And after every successful deployment, after every successful upgrade of our pipelines, we get to talk anything. And I played the video games, so we can talk about that.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question. And there is one question up there.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
I have a question. You mentioned a leaderboard before, right?
Yes.
So, from my experience in gaming, I know that these leaderboards often end up in players being quite toxic, if I may add. For example, in Valorant or League of Legends, these
Best
are
examples.
the prime examples. And I think that in most companies, at least that I worked in, there are quite similar experiences. Like, for example, someone was in the top leaderboard for like 2 months, and other people start thinking that, oh, maybe he has some connections with the managers, etc., etc. So tell me, to which teams should we employ these leaderboards, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't work in a team consisting, to use your allegory, you have like 6 junior developers, and then you have 2 senior ones that will get more points because there are senior ones, and they will have the advantage. So you have to tweak the scoring system, or you have to abandon the idea completely because it wouldn't be fair. I guess you have to know your team again to employ this solution, to make sure it would be fair, it wouldn't be abused, and everyone had the same chance. But I know it's repeating the answer, but the key thing here I think is knowing the people you're working with, and what drives them, what makes fun for them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Are there any more questions? I cannot see any hands raised. So great applause for Michał and his inspiring speech.
Thank you.